In 1939, two passenger liners to have been named Kazuma Maru and Kazuma Maru were started by NYK Ship Line. Now, you might want to sit down for this. This might be hard to believe, but yes, they lied. In actuality, they would enter service in 1942 as the two carriers of the 24,140-ton Hiyo class. They were part of Japan's Shadow Fleet. Ships laid down as one thing, but expected to be converted or finished as another. What makes no sense, though, is both ships were started well after the expiration of the Washington Treaty. As such, there was no longer any limit on the number or weight of their carriers. So why didn't they just design and build them as purpose-built carriers from the get-go? Got me. Regardless, they were originally laid down as privately owned liners, in exchange for the government heavily subsidizing them. They were designed for conversion into aircraft carriers. In the event, though, they were bought by the Navy while still under construction and were completed as carriers. So how did they do? Well, there were plenty of downsides, mostly as a result of their liner origins. They were slower than expected, partly as a result of having been bulged during conversion, partially due to their machinery being designed for liners. Real top speed was about 22 knots. Compare that to the Kaku's 34 knots. Also, their machinery wasn't the most reliable. The best example, of course, being when Hiyo had a breakdown just days before the Battle of Santa Cruz, taking her out of the fight. They only had 2 elevators. Their hangars were enclosed. Just in general, the build quality was bad. This was okay since they were originally designated auxiliary carriers and were to be given secondary roles. Think big CVEs. Yeah, actually, that's a good comparison. Think of them as the Japanese Sangamons. Then Midway happened. Suddenly, they were promoted to frontline carriers despite their faults. On the upside, apparently, being derived from liners, they were very stable. Also, as a result of using machinery meant for a liner, while they weren't fast, they were fairly fuel efficient at cruising speed and could maintain that speed longer. They also, to the Japanese anyways, introduced a respectable starboard island with integrated funnel. The funnel itself was slanted outward to keep exhaust out of the landing pattern. The island as a whole was offset so that it didn't infringe on flight deck space. Another good thing was that they had plenty of freeboard, keeping them drier. Finally, as with other conversions, their biggest strength was that they were available. They showed up. Junyo even managed to hold the fort alone around the Solomons at the end of 1942, start of 1943. Yep, just her. The others were either damaged or in Zuikaku's case went back to have radar added. Then she went on to survive the war. Not bad. Kazuma Maru was started November 30th, 1939, taken over by the Navy in 1940, and was completed as Hiyo July 31st, 1942. Kashiwara Maru was started March 20th, 1939, taken over by the Navy in 1940, and was completed as Junyo May 5th, 1942. Main armament was 6 twin 127mm 45 caliber mounts, 3 on each side on sponsons at the upper hangar level. Protection was modest. The armored deck in the hull was 20mm, increasing to 70mm over the engines, magazines, and fuel tanks. Side armor was 25mm, increasing to 50mm aside the vitals. There was no armor on the flight decks or hangars. Propulsion was provided by 6 boilers venting to the funnels. These provided steam to the 2 turbines, each running a propeller, which generated 56,250 horsepower for a speed of 22 knots. The flight deck was 210.3 meters by 27.3 meters. Both elevators were 14 meters square. The hangars were 153 by 15 meters and were 5 meters high. Hiyo was completed with Type 21 radar. A nominal aircraft loadout was 21 fighters, 18 dive bombers, and 9 torpedo planes. In July 1942, Junyo was fitted with the Type 21 radar. In February 1943, both were fitted with a second Type 21 radar because they weren't that reliable. In September 1944, Junyo was fitted with 6 28-cell 120mm anti-aircraft barrage rocket launchers and Type 13 radar. Of course, like everyone else throughout the war, the number of light anti-aircraft guns were constantly increased.